Good evening to each and everyone. My name is Maed and I will be reporting about the foundation of education, educational leadership, and the seminar and the development of moral values, including school and community relations. So the first thing that I am going to discuss is about the foundation of education, which are the psychology, sociology, and philosophy. So foundation of education. So, when I say foundation of education, this refers to a field of educational study that derives its character and method from a number of academic discipline, combination of discipline, and areas of studies. So, therefore, when we say foundation of education, it is an educational study which its character and method is derived from different academic discipline. So, an example of academic discipline are history, philosophy, sociology, anthropology, religion, so on and so forth. So, there are a lot of areas of studies that foundation of education derives its character and method. So, now let us discuss first the psychological foundation of education. So, when I say psychology, it is the study of human behavior or how person acts and reacts under different situations, consciously or unconsciously, mentally, physiologically, physically, overtly, or covertly. It is the study of man's reaction to life's stimulation. So that is psychology. So there are different theories of learning under the psychological foundation of education, but we will only discuss the few. First is the contribution of Ivan Pavlov, who is the father of classical conditioning theory. So, when we say classical conditioning theory, an example of this is whenever you come home wearing a baseball cap, you take your child to the park to play. So whenever your child sees you come home with baseball cap, he is excited because he has associated your baseball cap with a trip to the park. So classical conditioning is when an example of this is a classroom. So, whenever the teacher is bringing a class record, so it is already in the condition of the student that once si ma'am magdala og class record, there's a possibility nga na ay exam. So that is classical conditioning. Naka-condition na daan ang ilahang hunahuna nga kani pag magdala si ma'am og class record, mag-exam gid ni or mag-quiz gid ni. Okay, so that is classical conditioning. So another theory of Ivan Pavlov is that the key to learning in early years of life, train them what you want them to become. So, for short, this is the early childhood education, kani iyahang theory. So, when we say early childhood education, example of this is when the preschool teacher introduce young children to education to prepare them for kindergarten. So, bata pa lang sila, dapat i-train na sila, tudluan na sila. So, next is si Edward Thorndike, 1874, 1949. So, Edward Thorndike proposed the three laws of learning. So, the three laws of learning are law of readiness, law of exercise, and the law of effect. So, when we say law of readiness, an example of this is when student must have adequate rest, health, and physical ability. They must be satisfied with their basic needs before they are capable of learning. So, a law of readiness is when, for example, ang imong student is may eskwela siya nga wala siya kaon, wala siya tarong tulog. So, it is very hard for the student nga maka-learn. Unlike atong mga student nga tarong og kaon, tarong og tulog, so they are ready for learning. So, it is very important nga kaning law of readiness sabda nato as a teacher kasi sometimes we don't understand our students ngano man ni siya walay gana, ngano man ni siya walay kanang hinay o kanang acquisition sa learning, it is because ang kaning students di ay wala ta kabalo nga ang mga needs niya is wala na provide. So next is the law of exercise. So law of exercise, an example of this is every time practice occur, learning continues. Teacher must repeat important subject matter to make sure that learning continues. So an example of law of exercise for the student to learn is siya nang sa math. So we want our student to learn how to subtract or multiply. So it is very important that we do some exercises to them. So we keep repeating the process so that the learning continues. Mag-instill siya sa una-una sa mga bata. Next is the law of effect. Every learning should affect a good feeling to students. A student's chance of success is definitely increased. So, it is very important nga nasabtan na to na ang feeling sa student dapat na siya positive impact sa ilaha every time they learn. Makita na to sa ilaha nga naay learning sa students once makita na to nga happy sila nga mabalaan ni siya nga mga information. So mas easy ang learning sa ilaha pag happy sila nga idawaton ang katong learning nga ilahang na-acquire. Unlike atong mga students nga di ganahan maka-learn, dili sila happy sa information or dili sila grateful sa learning nga ilahang na-acquire during ana nga session. So, dili ta maka-guarantee nga na ay learning dira sa ilaha. Okay? Next is si Howard Gardner. Okay. So, Howard Gardner, kita mo atong salida nga naa siya sa outer space. Si Gardner, yahang name katong very intelligent. Kalimut kung sa title ato, but padayon ta. Howard Gardner, Gardner's multiple intelligence. Humans have several different ways of processing information, and these ways are relatively independent of one another. So according to Howard Gardner, there are different intelligences. So, dili na ta makaingon ron nga bugo siya. Bugo. Kay nga naatay kanya-kanyang intelligence. Ang students naapay kanya-kanyang intelligence. So, mga intelligence are linguistic, logico-mathematical, musical, spatial, bodily kinesthetic, interpersonal, intrapersonal, and naturalistic. So, it could be nga ang bata dili siya maayo sa language pero maayo siya sa math. It could be nga dili siya maayo sa academic pero maayo siya sa physical activity, bodily kinesthetic. It could be nga dili siya maayo sa academic pero maayo siya sa music. So that is considered as intelligence. So di na ta pwede maingon nga bugo siya. Kay naatay kanya-kanya nga intelligence. Ang mga bata na kanya-kanyang intelligence. And then, Daniel Goleman. So, emotion contains the power to affect action or the emotional quotient. So, si Daniel Goleman, according sa iyaha, naa daw lakong impact or impart ang atong emotion para maapektuhan ang atong emotion. And then, emotional quotient. So, mo ni siya ang EQ. So, emotional quotient is very important sa learning. It is because naayuban ka ng once makoreksyonan, magawas ang emotion. Masuko. Pero, for you to learn is dapat taas ka og EQ. Kay dili man sa tanang panahon IQ. Dapat naatay taas nga EQ. Kay ang EQ is more on emotion nimo, on how you will accept kanang mga correction, how will you accept sa mga people sa imuhang palibot on dealing different people sa learning side. Okay? Next is the social foundation of education. Okay. Social foundation of education. So let us first define what is sociology. Sociology is the study of human beings living in group, of how people act and interact under different social situations and how they relate themselves to one another. Terms that indicates group actions are used here as social cooperation, teamwork, sociable conflict, and etc. So that is sociology. Okay, so sociology for short is the study of how people socialize sa palibot, sa different people. Okay? Next is, John Dewey. John Dewey considered two fundamental elements, which is the school and the civil society, to be major topics needing attention and construction to encourage experimental intelligence and plurality. So, according to Dewey, education came primarily through social interaction, that the school setting should be considered a social institution. And now also according to him, education should be a process of living and not a preparation for future living. Next is si Alvin Toffler. Alvin Toffler believed that knowledge should prepare students for the future. He also suggested that in the future, parents might have the source to teach prescribed curriculum from home as a result of technology, and foresaw school and student work creatively, collaboratively, independent of their age. So, as what they say, that we should prepare the child for the road and not prepare the road for the child. So, ika nga nila sa students, dili nato sila i-baby, nga i-ready na nato tanan, ihungit na nato tanan sa ilaha, but we will prepare them for the road nga ilahang agian. Okay? Next is the philosophical foundation of education. So, let us first define what is philosophy. Philosophy is a systematized truth or principle that serves as a guide for conduct or thinking. So, philosophy of education is a set of related beliefs that influence what and how students are taught. Teachers' philosophy of education guides their behavior in the classroom. So, it is the philosophy of education that will define on unsa ang attitude ni teacher sa classroom, or how niya i-deal ang teaching towards the students. So, there are different philosophies of education. So, first is perennialism. So, perennialism assert that primary purpose of education is to bring student in contact with the truth by cultivating their intellect. So, isa sa aim sa perennialism is to educate the rational person, cultivate intellect. And ang role sa teacher is to assist student to think with reason. It focuses on classical subjects, literary analysis and trends, use of great books, Bible, Quran, classical, liberal arts. Okay, so therefore, kani si perennialism is more traditional. Diba? Traditional. So, example of perennialist teacher is believes that teacher are intellectual mentors and models for their students. And number 2 is teachers that is perennialist believes that their role is to sharpen the students' intellectual powers and enhance their moral qualities. Okay. Next philosophy is essentialism. So, essentialism aims to promote intellectual growth for learners to become competent. And the role of the teachers are sole authorities in the subject area. It focuses essential skills of the 3 R's, or the essential subjects, and its trend is back to basic. Excellence is education and cultural literacy. So, essentialism is a teacher-centered philosophy that adheres to the belief that the basic skills of literacy should be developed in school. So, what are the 3 R's? The 3 R's are the reading, writing, and arithmetic. So an example of essentialist teacher that believes that they have the authority to discipline students. So ang essentialist nga teacher kay gatuo siya nga ang teacher kay naay authority nga mo disiplina sa mga bata. Pero medyo lisod na siya karon sa ato tungod sa CPP, Child Protection Policy. So next is siguro another way around, more on storya lang. Reminder sa mga students, pero dito siya dingon itong pareha sa unang gabi nga makadisiplina. Next is believes the teacher should have a mastery of knowledge and skills they teach. So ang teacher nga essentialist, believe siya nga dapat you have the mastery of knowledge sa imuhang ginatudlo. Of course, dapat man jud kay wala kay ihatag kung wala kay na sa imuha. So you can't share what you don't have. So as a teacher, you should understand first the subject matter before ka impart of learning sa mga bata kay wala kay ma-share sa ilaha o wala pug kasabot sa imong ginatudlo. Okay, next is progressivism. Progressivism aims to promote democratic social living, and the role of the teacher leads growth and development of lifelong learners, and then it focuses in disciplinary subjects. Its trends is equal opportunities for all. So progressivists belong to a reform movement that oppose the traditional education. So kaning mga progressivist nga mga teacher, they are against the authoritarian teachers. Di sila ganahan atong mga authoritarian teachers. Kung sa authoritarian kanang sige og grabe magagamit sa ilang authority bitaw si panugo inana. Authoritarian man siya. Next is against sila sa book-based instruction. So dili sila anang focus ra ka kay according to the book. So di sila ana. Next is against sila sa authoritarian classroom management. Authoritarian classroom management kay katong pareha sa una nga pag maingon ng teacher, stand up. Marabitog sundalo. Sinundalo. Then pag dili ka maminaw, labayon ka og kanang mga chalk, eraser, pero dili na siya pwede karon. Next is social reconstructionism. So social reconstructionism aim to improve and reconstruct society. And ang role sa teacher acts as agent of change, and its trend is school and curriculum reform. So social reconstructionism were considered as more socially oriented progressivists. They sought to make school the center of large social reform. Okay, so ang socialist reconstructivist teacher believes that the school is the ideal place to begin alleviating social problems. And then another example of social reconstructivist teacher is that the teacher believed that research is an effective means in solving problem of society. Okay, so therefore ang reconstructivist teacher kay kanang more on a problem solver nga teacher. Okay? So, let us proceed to another subject, which is educational leadership. Okay. Educational leadership is a term applied to school administrations that strive to create positive change in educational policy and processes. So educational leaders are trained to advance and improve educational system or institution. They usually employed as school principals, administrators, but take on additional roles such as department chair or academic dean. They also serve as a guide and influence the other educators in an administrative setting. Leaders in these executive roles work toward finding ways to improve learning and to improve the process of educating students. They serve in elementary, secondary, and post-secondary centers. And school site leaders, directors, principals, and assistant administrator are employed to work either as the role educational leader or in small teams. So, a typical position for educational leaders in administrative settings are principal, superintendent, academic dean, director, head of school, department, chair. And more higher pag yun nga, uban nga position. Okay, so now let us discuss the philosophy of leadership in education. So, philosophy of leadership in education is the rational investigation of the truth and the principles of being, knowledge, or conduct. Philosophy is the attainment of an integrated, comprehensive view of life of vital importance. So the following are the philosophy of leadership in education. First is the vision, followed by values, leader development, then managing change and diversity. So let us first discuss vision. Vision is the first element to consider in developing a philosophy of leadership. It is one of the best, and the one of the best description of vision is that it is a mental model of a future state of organization. Okay? Next is the values. So values serve as our moral compass to guide every soldier from private to general through the maze of intellectual, philosophical, and emotional issues that encompass our life. Next is the leader development. Leader development includes three essential components. First is formal schooling, leader training, and empowerment to the leaders. Okay, so it's very important that the leader is open for development. Next is managing change. Managing change. So, anyone who has ever tried to initiate organizational change has probably heard, we tried that and it didn't work, or we have always done this way, or change is not always easy for an organization member. But however, change is inevitable. So therefore, as a leader, you should know how to manage changes. Okay? Next is diversity. Diversity is one area of leadership that often overlooked as the strength of leveraging diversity in organization. Men and women of various ethnic, racial, religious background and experiences reflect the treasured differences that makes us unique and powerful organization. So, to be an effective leader, you should also consider the diversity or the uniqueness of individuals. Okay? Next is the principles of leadership. So there are 10 principles of leadership. First is know yourself and seek self-improvement. So as a leader, you should always seek improvement. You should be open for self-improvement. Dili ka dapat complacent lang nga. Maayo na ko diri, dili na ko mag-learn atong lain nga butang. So as a leader, dapat willing ka nga matudluan pa to improve para sa effectiveness sa imong leadership. Next is be technically proficient. So as a leader, dapat kabalo ka sa technicalities sa pasikot-sikot sa imuhang eskwelahan kung paunsaon ang mga technical know-hows. Next is seek responsibility and take responsible for your actions. So as a leader sa school, assuming nga leader ka sa school, dapat responsible ka kung unsa man ang mga decision makings kay mong himuon sa eskwelahan. So you should be responsible sa tanang mga effect sa imuhang gihimo nga decisions. Okay? Next is make sound and timely decisions. So as like what I have said, as a leader sa school, dapat dili ka mo decide agad-agad. Dapat naakay kanang pagbalanse sa mga situation, and you should listen different parties para ang decision nga imong pagahimon is kanang na balanse jud siya og tarong. Next is know your people. Set the example. So as a leader, you should be a model. So what if your teachers go to school late? So paunsa ka mamadlong sa imuhang mga teacher nga you should go to school early, dili magpa-late if ikaw mismo nga leader nila, principal, late pug ka mo adto. So as a leader, you should set the good example to your teachers. Okay? Next is know your people and look out for their well-being. So dapat i-consider nato ang well-being sa ato ang mga tao. So as a principal, siguro ang concrete example ani is katong example ani kanang mangayo og reports agad-agad. So dili nato i-consider nato dapat ang well-being sa tong mga teachers kanang ang ilahang availability, ang ilahang kana bitawng dili nato sila mo murag robot nga pag moingon ka naani nga report, naani nga mga forms, instant na adayon. So i-consider pod nato sila kay dili sila robot nga agad-agad na adayon o gusto nimo. Okay, next is keep your people informed. So keep your people informed meaning communication. So it is very important nga ang communication between the teacher and the principal or the leader sa school is kanang naagyod siya. Kay the more nga naay communication, naay information nga istorya nimo sa imong mga tao, mas naay harmonious nga sistema ang naa sa inyo. Kay ang misinformation daghan ra ba og cause nga problems. Next is develop a sense of accountability, ownership, and responsibility in your place. So, mananso siya no, dapat accountable ka as a leader kung unsa man ang imuhang mga panghimuon or mga programs nga himuon sa school. Next is ensure the tasks are understood, supervised, and accomplished. So, this is very kanang sa mga newbies kay baguhanon pa man daghan kayo og mga information nga medyo dili jud familiar. So as a leader, we should orient them. Dapat ma-explain nato sa ilaha kung unsa ang ato ang gusto ipahimo sa ilaha. Dili kay katong mag-assume ta nga kabalo na sila tanan. Okay? Next is train your people as a team. So it is very important nga we should be a family sa ato ang school. So dili dapat nga kanang naay over nga competition. Normal na siya nga naay competition, but we should train our people nga i-consider ang matag usa as family nga in which kung unsa man ang output sa isa will reflect kung unsa pud ang inyong trabaho as whole being sa school. So we should treat or train our people as a team. Okay, next subject is the Ed 237, which is Seminar in the Development of Moral Values, including School and Community Relation. So, teachers assume a wide range of role to support school and student success. Teacher can also lead in a variety of ways, and one of which is they can serve as leader in the community where they belong. So, in addition to classes, teachers find themselves involved in many community projects and serves the community at large as leader. Teachers also regularly take positions within the barangay, communities, and other organizations. So, what I'm going to report tonight is the Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers under Article 3, the teacher and the community. So, Code of Ethics is, familiar na siya, tuatanan na siya, different articles. So, I will discuss only the teacher and the community. So, under the section 1 of this article is that a teacher is a facilitator of learning and the development of the youth. He shall therefore render the best service by providing an environment conducive to such learning and growth. So, as a teacher, we should give our best in teaching our youth. So, we should not be complacent sa, pwede na to, okay na to. So, we should strive hard to give our best for our learners to learn, which is kanang through that, ma-develop ang mga bata sa ato ang community nga ginatudluan. Okay? Next is, every teacher shall provide leadership and initiative to actively participate in community movement for moral, social, educational, economic, and civic betterment. So as a teacher, we can or we shall provide leadership. Pwede ta mo participate sa mga activity sa community nato. Kanang an example of this is katong naay activity sa mga kabatanunan, kanang pwede sa church, pwede ta mo appeal dira para ma-develop ang moral values or maka-develop ta or maka-share tag mga moral values sa atuang mga students or sa atuang community. Next is every teacher shall merit reasonable social recognition, for which purpose he shall behave with honor and dignity at all times and refrain from such activities as gambling, smoking, drunkenness, and other excesses much illicit relation. So, kani siya medyo, as what I have observed, naadjud po ko'y makita ng mga teachers nga nagasigig inom, naagay ko'y makita nga medyo gagambling, pero siguro as teachers of present generation, kanang we should set a good example sa tuang mga students nga ug mag-inom man ka dito lang ka sa inyong balay, dili ka dito magpa-display sa public nga dito tagay-tagay jud ka tapos hubog-hubog na si mamong sister. So paunsa nato nga respetoon ta sa tuang community, tagaan ta og kanang value sa atong mga students if kita mismo wala ta nag-respect sa atoang profession nga as a teacher dapat role model ta sa atoang mga bata ug sa community nga ato ang ginapuy-an. Okay? So, ato siya. Minimize tapos responsible ka dapat sa imuhang actions. Kay aron mahimot ang good example sa atoang community. Next is Section 4. Every teacher shall live for and with the community and shall therefore refrain from disparaging the community. So when you say disparaging is kanang dili daw dapat kaminusan nimo ang isig katawo. So it doesn't mean nga teacher na ka, you are above. So dapat nara gyapon ta stay on the ground, humble lang gihapon, dili ta magmaliit og isig katawo nato sa tuang community. Okay, next is Section 5, every teacher shall help the school keep the people in the community informed about the schoolwork and accomplishment as well as its needs and problems. Okay, as a teacher, we should be an agent for information sa ato ang community kung unsa ang mga needs sa ato ang school. Kay it could be nga imong kaistorya is kaning atong mga officials nga kaya nila mo donate og mga important nga mga needs nato sa school. Example, mag-donate sila ug makadungog sila nga si mama ug si sir na ay kulang didto sa school nga mga pintal. So pwede nato sila nga pamarayigan, pero di po tawingon nga kanang magsige na lang butag pangayo. Pero an example also of this is kaning kalit-kalit nga face-to-face. So, shock man gid ng mga parents nga nang kalit-kalit nag face-to-face, no? Pero, as a teacher, pag naay mangutana sa tuang community, sa tuang mga silingan, so, we should be the one who will explain to them nga mismo kita na shock pod. Pero, of course, we should, ika nga nila, dapat flexible. And, anytime, face-to-face naman yun. So, padayon. Next is, every teacher is intellectual leader in the community, especially in the barangay, and shall welcome the opportunity to provide such leadership when needed to extend counseling service as appropriate and actively be involved in matters affecting the welfare of the people. So, as a teacher, if given a chance nga makashare ta sa to ang counseling service, so we should go for it. For example, na mga community, na kay mga silingan nga nag-away. So, if as much as possible, nakay ikatambag sa ilaha nga ma-settle sila. So, ipa-experience mo sa ilaha ang imuhang counseling service para sa kaayuhan for the welfare of the people. So, Section 7 is every teacher shall maintain harmonious and pleasant personal and official relations with other professionals, with government officials, and with people individual or collectively. So, as a teacher, no, it is very important nga na atay maayong relasyon sa atong mga higher ups or sa mga officials. Okay, for example, mga tag bala ganina mga tag mga donation or naa sila'y naatay mga needs nga program sa tuang school, so makaduol ra dayon ta sa ilaha. Kay if example kalaban nimo si mga inana, mga higher officials, maski unsaon nimo hangyuan na kanang lisod gid nga mukuot lisod gid nga mo hatag sa ilaha. So it is very important kanatay maayong relasyon sa ato ang mga leaders, tong mga kapitan, tong mga kagawad, mayors, and everyone nga naa sa higher ups. So to summarize, teachers serve as not only educators but also mentors and role models, especially in the community where we live in the modern world, where values such as respect, sharing, cooperation, and involvement in the community. So that's all for tonight. I hope that you you stay with me from the beginning up to the end, and I hope that you learn from my report. So that's all. Good evening.